The Honourable Member for Gympie.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, not since the 1950s with Thomas Dunstan has a member for Gympie risen in this chamber to speak in the interests of the rank and file of the Labor Party. It is as if, Mr Speaker, we have entered a parallel universe. Under this Bligh government, we have found a Labor Party that Thomas Dunstan and others would not recognise. A Labor Party that has sold out on their core values. A Labor Party that wouldn't know what the Labor movement was about. This is what we are seeing here. We heard from the most unpopular member of this parliament and no doubt the state's worst treasurer, the proposition put forward that this motion is a waste of the parliament's time. Mr Speaker, may I put forward to the member for Mount Coot-tha perhaps some other moments in this parliament's recent history that were a far greater waste of time. What springs to mind at first was a minute's silence for a drug trafficker. If ever 60 seconds in this parliament was wasted, it was that motion. It was that time. It was an insult to those in our community who have to deal with that. But another time, another waste of time of this parliament perpetrated on the people of Queensland by this government and a waste of taxpayers' dollars was recalling the parliament for Gordon Nuttall. There is a time that was clearly wasted. There is a time that we saw this Labor government show their true colours. And so, to have the member for Mount Coot-tha, the most unpopular member of this parliament, Mr Speaker, the state's worst treasurer, come in here and lecture us about a waste of time is indeed something that takes a cake. Mr Deputy Speaker, when Tommy Dunstan stood for the workers of Queensland, and now we find ourselves on this side standing up for those in Queensland. Mr Speaker, as I pause for a glass of water. I'm enjoying this far too much, Mr Speaker. Let us come back to the motion, though, and let us find what the element of it. And as has quite rightly been pointed out, this motion is about integrity and honesty. It is coming down to those core elements, integrity and honesty. And whilst I will not profess for a minute to understand the machinations within the Labor Party, I don't think a crack addict could understand the machinations of the Labor Party, I take with great interest the argument put forward that it's an election year, so therefore we shouldn't be having a state conference. And I thought to myself, well, surely that's been done before. And so a little bit of research has shown us that in July 2007, an election year, there was a state conference. Well, perhaps in 2004 they scrapped it. That would have been one that they would have been concerned about. No, they held a state conference. What about in 2001? 2001 was an election they wanted to win, so they should have held that. They held a conference. What about in the election for 1998? Surely that was a year that they suspended the state conference. Well, there has, as we go back to beyond 1993. 1993, so they do have form. I understand that, they have form. In fact, there was a while there where they didn't hold any conferences. And that must make you wonder, what is it about the Australian Labor Party and their view on democracy? What is it about that? Because surely their state conferences are for the same purpose that most people would think a political party has a state conference. And that is to check what the views of their members are, looking at the attitudes to ensure that they are reflected in policy. State conferences would be an opportunity to do that. But what do we find from this government? Running from the idea that they might have their policies representing their own members' views, running from the idea that perhaps their policy represents the views of Queenslanders. Clearly it doesn't, because we have seen from recent polls that this government is so out of touch with the views of Queensland, so arrogant and so dishonest, Mr Deputy Speaker, that they wouldn't know what ordinary Queenslanders want if they fell over it. They find themselves in a position where they are disconnected from the views of ordinary Queenslanders, and the arrogant attitude they display shows that they do not deserve government.
Order. The honour.